Wow. So we are like finally here. This has been like a 3 year in the making, maybe even longer, for me to move forward and come forward with this podcast that I know God has been telling me to do. And for those that don't know me, my name is Shaun Chancy. Um, a lot of people know me from Dare to Have Hair. I am the owner of Dare to Have Hair and the founder. I also started a few years ago there in Business Besties to help business entrepreneurs find their way and navigate their way through entrepreneurship. But now we're here in like a personal space, right? This podcast. And it's called Don't Make Me Go Get My Sister, which I think is so appropriate because um, I do have a younger sister on my father's side, but growing up, not living in that household predominantly and just being the only girl in my household with my brothers, I always longed for a big sister, right? And throughout my life and through my journey, I will always, say to myself, like, what would I tell my younger self? So I kind of had to like big sister myself through life with the help, of course, of God, the Holy Spirit. And in doing that, I gained so many younger sisters that are just drawn to me that I was able to just pour into their life. So when I was thinking of a name for this podcast, I don't think that it's any coincidence that God gave me the name Don't Make Me Go Get My Sister. Because I am that big sister. And in this season, I have found sisters that God has brought into my life that have been able to hold my arms up when I felt like I just couldn't continue on any longer. So, my name is Shaun Chancy. I am a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner. Um, there's so many levels and depths to who I am. Um, I don't even really honestly know where to start. Um, I will start by saying, like, throughout my life, I experienced a lot of trauma. Um, but I also know that you have too, right? Like, most of the people that are going to be drawn to this podcast have been through some traumatic things. So I just want to let you know that you're not alone. And for a long time, I learned through the lens of this world how to mask that pain, right? And to become a different version of truly who I was because I was ashamed and embarrassed of all the trauma that I went through. So I constantly kept reinventing a different version of myself until I finally just got tired and just submitted and gave every broken piece of myself to God and just in all honesty and be like, in all truthfulness, was like, God, this is who I am. Like, this is what I have. And I give you every piece of me. And through all of that pain and all of that ugliness, I'm finding purpose. So growing up, I was sexually abused from I was literally a baby until high school. And throughout my high school, I learned to mask that pain by becoming what I thought people expected out of me to hide what I actually was going through because I cried out for help so many times and no one helped me. I kind of conformed to the ways of what I was subjected to, thinking that this was just all life was going to be. Um, but even in that, God still stepped in and redeemed and saved me. And one day I was actually talking to my guidance counselor, thinking that she was a friend because she was a little younger. And we were just having like a normal conversation. And I just said it to her, not thinking anything of it because I told so many people and they were just, their only response would be, I'm sorry to hear that. But no one actually did anything. So I'm like, no one cares. Like, this is just going to be my life and this is just what it is. But that day, me speaking to my guidance counselor, me telling her, instead of her having a moment to say, I'm sorry that happened to you, she picked up her phone. She made a couple of phone calls. And from that day moving forward, I was no longer sexually abused. And I'm learning that in the midst of long periods of trauma and pain, because that was a long period of me being sexually abused from being a baby all the way up to high school, I would say about like 10th or 11th grade of that happening, that one moment that God stepped in, things changed and they never were the same. And for so long, I had questioned, like, God, why did I have to go through that so long? Why did I have to suffer through that so long? And I was in a place where I blamed God. I blamed myself. I blamed my parents. I blamed so many people, not realizing that the main person to blame is evilness, is the devil. And I say that to say, by me now being a parent, right? We get so caught up in ourselves. We get so caught up in ourselves of being a lover of ourselves that we do not focus on what God has us to focus on. And in the midst of us being distracted, evilness definitely steps in. And 9 times out of 10, it's going to come for your children, because it already has captured you, because you're already deceived, you're already distracted, you're already doomed. So the next thing is to go after the next generation. And then that's how we see ourselves in this place of living out generational curses that keep going and going and going until somebody finally says, no, it stops here. And over the last 3 years, God has conformed and transformed me and sanctified me through trial and error and pain, but a different type of pain, more like a birthing pain, to become that person to say, guess what? It stops here. And in me entering into that place, I never thought it was going to be the way that God did it, the way he came in with his strong hand. He literally uprooted everything in my life. And what did that look like? That looked like everything being tore down from the area of my business. Let's just backing up from the area of my personal persona, from the area of my business, to the area of my marriage, to the area of me parenting, and then to the area of me thinking that I had a relationship with God, and him really coming in and showing me what relationship looks like in truth and in form and in action. Because a lot of times it's a perception that we have of God. It's a perception and a false persona that we have of God, where we think that, God is just like this genie, and long as he's blessing us, everything is okay. But when you finally enter into a relationship with God and you enter into that trust, you understand that when you're calling on peace, you're really calling on war. What do I mean by that? Even if we look in the Bible, right, the children of Israel, it said that God heard their cries, and he came in, with the messenger of Moses, but he came in with war, coming from blood. He already knew what he was going to do to deliver his children, and it was with his strong arm, and he literally tore the nation of Egypt apart to bring them out and forth, even to tearing up an ocean. And when you're entering into covenant and relationship with God, that sometimes happens in our life. And a lot of times people get scared and they say, wait, this can't be God. No, it's 1,000% God. Because in order for a house to be sturdy, for a foundation to be sturdy, the framework and the foundation has to be sturdy, and it has to be built upon a rock. It has to be built upon God. And the way that has to be built, everything that was built before through false narratives, through false love, through false perception, through false identity, all of those things that we hide behind to create self-protection, self-awareness, has to be tore down. It has to be tore down, because those are the very things that we end up making an idol. Those are the very things that we end up making into small gods, thinking that that's carrying us, and really all it is doing is destroying and distracting us so that it can go after the next generation. So my hopes with this podcast is, as God is laying a foundation in my life, a new foundation that is sturdy, and it's not comfortable, but I'm learning to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, is that I can bring some clarity and widen out the perception of what that looks like, so that every time God puts us in that fiery furnace, we don't run out and have to start over again, but realize that he's in the fire with us. And through that refinement and through that fire, we're going to come out as pure gold, and we will enter into all of the promises that God has for us. But it's not a facade. It's not a fairy tale. And it's not something that's fake. It's a real touchable and tangible thing, but you have to enter into a place of submission and trust. So with the hopes of, not the hopes, but with me knowing that the Holy Spirit is leading me through this and me vocalizing and speaking how I'm walking through this, my hope is that I can bring you hope to know that nothing is wrong with you. Your life is not in vain. What you think is being destructive and has no hope has a great promise, and that you can enter into all that God has for you in every area of your life by just reaching out, grabbing onto his hand, and trusting him. I seen a meme that said this year I grabbed onto God's hand and we ain't stopped yet. We ain't even stopped for no water. And literally it's like that. But it's like that because I realized that he is my water. He is my bread. He is everything that I need. And every time that I feel like I can't go anymore and that it's the end for me, he shows me a bigger and brighter future, hope, and beginning. And I'm just excited to just walk with y'all through this part of my life of exposure and me being truthful and honest of what it really looks like to be a daughter of God. So until next episode, see you guys soon.